All right, please just stay. I know that I'm going to be talking about Jesus, and you know I'm going to be talking about Jesus. And before you automatically turn off, just listen to the story. Just listen to the story that's being told here. Jesus is speaking to the crowd. He's speaking to a crowd of people and to his disciples. Also, he's speaking to the Jewish religious leaders of the time, the Pharisees, but he's speaking to the crowd about the religious leaders. And we can still find this to be relevant in the present day. Jesus says, you would think that these Jewish leaders and these Pharisees were Moses. The way that they just keep making up laws, so many laws. And of course, you should obey their every whim. Of course you should, because you have to. If you don't, we know what happens when we don't obey the law. It may be all right, though, Jesus says, it may be all right to do what they say. It may be all right. But above anything else, do not follow their example, he says. Don't follow their example. It might be all right to do as they say, the laws that they put into place, to follow those laws. It might be all right, but don't follow their example. For they do not do what they tell you to do. The ones who tell us what we need to do, what we not need to do, they're not doing what they're telling us to do. They're not doing it themselves. They load us up with impossible demands that they themselves don't even try to keep. This is what we see with the elites, the rulers of different countries all over the world, different leaders, senators, politicians. It doesn't matter who it is, right? This is what Jesus is talking about here. Everything they do is done for show. They're just show-offs. Show up and show out, right? Show up and show out, and then they're gone out. Everything they do is done for show. They act holy. They act like they're holy by wearing on their arms little prayer boxes with scripture verses inside. You go to church, they act all holy. They give you scripture. They say that they're guiding you and they're helping you and they're leading you, but they're deceiving you. And by lengthening the memorial fringes on their robes, and how they love to sit at the head table at banquets. They love to be in front of everybody. They love the flattery of others, right? They think they're so great. And they have reserved pews in the synagogue, like the Council of the 12, with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Roman Catholic Church, the Pope, the bishop, the preachers, the pastors, right? They love the reserved pews, to be able to sit in front, to be able to sit in front of everybody, to sit above. How they enjoy the deference paid to them on the streets, and to be called rabbi and master or bishop or preacher or pastor, right? The deference paid. But don't let anyone call you that, he says. Don't let anyone call you a rabbi. Don't let anybody call you a master. Don't let anybody call you the Pope or the bishop. This is what Jesus is saying. Don't let anyone ever call you that, for only God is your rabbi. For only God is our rabbi, our teacher, our bishop, our pastor, our Pope. Only God is. And all of us are on the same level as brothers, as sisters. Brothers as sisters, on the same level. We want to talk about equality in this world, but we don't like the way Jesus was talking about equality, because you know why? Because the battles that we have are not of flesh and blood, but of spiritual principalities. Don't let anyone ever call you master, rabbi, because God is only the rabbi. He's the only rabbi. And all of us are on the same levels as brothers and sisters. And do not address anyone here on earth as Father, for only God in heaven should be addressed like that. And do not be called master, for only one is your master, even the Messiah. The Messiah is our master, but he also was here to serve. He said, "I did not come to be your master, I came to serve," even though he is the master. Because the more lowly your service to others is, the greater you are, the greater you become. The more lowly your service to others is, the greater you are. Right? To be the greatest is to be a servant. To be the greatest is to be the servant. To serve others. To serve others out of kindness, because it's what Jesus did. It's what he had taught us, what is right. That is love, is to serve others. But those who think themselves great, those who think that they are greater than others, that they're better than others, that they sit above others, that they have power over others, are going to be greatly, greatly, greatly disappointed. And then they will be humbled. And those, though, who have humbled themselves in the sight of God, who have humbled themselves, will be exalted, will be raised up. Jesus goes on to say, "Woe to you, Pharisees! Woe to you, Pharisees! And you other religious leaders, like the Sadducees and the Herodians." Did you know that King Herod and his group of people, his followers, were called Herodians, which was a Jewish political party? A Jewish political party. Okay? "Woe to you, Pharisees, and you other religious leaders! Y'all are hypocrites, for you will not let others enter the kingdom of heaven, and will not go in yourselves. And you pretend to be holy with all your long public prayers in the streets, while you were evicting widows from their homes." And what are we doing? We're condemning people for killing Christians in the streets. But then we turn right around and there's so much hypocrisy that's going on in the world. So much hypocrisy is always going on in the world, right? So hypocrites are just nothing more than blind guides. They're going to lead you down the wrong path. So you pretend to be holy, he says to the Pharisees and religious leaders. You pretend to be holy with all your long public prayers in the streets, while you were evicting widows from their homes at the same time. You're hypocrites. Woe upon you, hypocrites! For you go to all lengths to make one convert to your religion, to convert to Judaism, or whatever it may be that you're wanting people to convert to, and then you turn him into twice the son of hell. You are yourselves blind guides. You are blind guides, and woe upon you! For your rule is that to swear by God's temple means nothing. You can break that oath, but to swear by the gold in the temple is binding. Do not swear by the gold in the temple, blind fools, because which is greater? Which is greater? Is it the gold that's greater, or is it the temple that sanctifies the gold, of which is greater? We know that the temple is greater. The temple is the body of Christ. It's Jesus Christ. He is the one that sanctifies the gold. He is the one that sanctifies us. We are the gold. We are to be refined as gold is refined. And you say that to take an oath by the altar can be broken, but to swear by the gifts on the altar is binding. Jesus is like, can you imagine? This is what Jesus is saying. There's exclamation points here as well. Okay, so let me back up a little bit. For your rule, he says, blind guides, woe upon you, woe upon you. For your rule is that to swear by God's temple means nothing. You can break that oath, but to swear by the gold in the temple is binding. So he's saying, like, you can break the oath that you swear on God, but if you swear an oath upon the gold in the temple, then it's binding forever. He's like, you're hypocrites. How can you say this? Blind fools. Which is greater, he says to the crowd. Which is greater? Which is greater? Is it the gold, or is it the temple that sanctifies the gold? And you can imagine, right? The tone of voice, looking around in the crowd. The crowd looking at each other, looking at Jesus, thinking, realizing what's going on here. This is why the religious leaders, this is why the Herodians, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, this is why the Romans ended up helping, because it was guilt dog holler. They knew that they were wrong, so they got real loud and they kept pointing the finger and saying, you need to do something to Jesus because he's going to cause people to realize what the truth actually is. And still he did. Well, over 2,000 years later, and we realize that this is the truth. So you can paint the image that you want of Jesus all you want. The story that's being told right here is relevant to this very day and what we're dealing with as humans in this world. And you say that to take an oath by the altar can be broken, but to swear by the gifts on the altar is binding. Blind, for which is greater? He says again, for which is greater? The gift on the altar or the altar itself that sanctifies the gift? When you swear by the altar, you are swearing by it and everything on it. You see what I'm saying? Jesus says, when you swear by the altar, you are swearing by it and everything on it. And when you swear by the temple, you are swearing by it and by God who lives in it. And when you swear by heavens, you are swearing by the throne of God and by God himself. Yes, woe upon you, Pharisees, and you other religious leaders, hypocrites. Still, 21st century, y'all are blind guides, blind fools, you're hypocrites. And this is what I'm trying to say. When people ask, oh, so you're religious, they ask me. Or they tell me, oh, you're religious. No, I'm not religious. I'm not even claiming myself to be a Christian because I know that now means a derogatory term to those who are followers of Jesus. Trying to, I know I'm bringing people out of the darkness here. Woe upon you, Pharisees and other religious leaders, you hypocrites! For you tithe down to the last mint leaf in your garden, but ignore the important things such as justice and mercy and faith. Yes, you should tithe. Jesus says you should tithe, but you should not leave the more important things undone. Blind guides, how many times does he say blind guides and blind fools? So he says it so many times so they can realize that is what they are, because they're not going to understand it or think that they are. But they say the truth speaks for itself. The truth speaks for itself. So, justice, mercy, and faith. Yes, you should tithe, Jesus says, but you should not leave the more important things undone. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. You strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel. Woe to you, Pharisees, and you religious leaders, hypocrites. Again, he's saying this. You are so careful to polish the outside of the cup, but the inside is foul with extortion and greed. You look all pretty on the, and that's exactly what Lucifer is. He's pretty on the outside. He's polished, looking good on the outside. Clean clothes, tie, nice shoes, gold necklace, nice watch, chains everywhere, looking good. All polished on the outside, but on the inside, the cup is dirty, full of greed, full of extortion, full of deception. And in this world, everything's so backwards. We look at homeless people and the way that they're dressed and the way that they're presented, and we think that they are lower than us, and we don't look at them as polished. But I bet you the inside of their cup is cleaner than the ones who are more polished on the outside. First, clean the inside of the cup. First, clean yourself on the inside. Become spiritually clean, spiritually aware of how you are and how you become over the generations. Clean the inside. Clean who you are from the inside out. Realize yourself from the inside out. And then the whole cup will be clean. Fix yourself. Cut down the weeds in your backyard, right? Don't be going into someone else's backyard. Don't be trying to fit in with the next person or make fun of somebody else because of the way they dress. You could have somebody that's wearing knockoff shoes, looking like crap, but they're still clean because they're clean on the inside. And you know it too by the way they present themselves. Woe to you, Pharisees, and you religious leaders. You're like beautiful mausoleums. Beautiful mausoleums full of dead men's bones. It's like those pyramids, right? The Egyptians made. They're so beautiful on the inside, or on the outside. So beautiful on the outside. And all the sarcophaguses on the inside. All the dead people, the dead bones that lie inside the nice pyramids, the beautiful pyramids that everybody just came from all over the world to look at these great pyramids, but on the inside it was full of dead people. You're like beautiful mausoleums full of dead men's bones and of foulness and corruption. You try to look like saintly men, but underneath those pious robes of yours, your hearts are besmirched with every sort of hypocrisy and sin. Yes, woe to you, Pharisees, and you religious leaders, hypocrites, for you build monuments to the prophets killed by your fathers, and lay flowers on the graves of the godly men that destroyed, and say, we certainly would never have acted as our fathers did. But you do, and have, and will always. You know, this speaks to a lot of people in this world. And it could be people in great positions of power, or people who think they are in great positions of power. But they both think they are. Woe to you, Pharisees. Woe to you, religious leaders, the bishops, the pastors, the preachers, the teachers. In saying that, Jesus says, you are accusing yourselves of being the sons of wicked men. And you are following in their steps, filling up the full measure of their evil. Snakes, you snakes, sons of vipers, how shall you escape the judgment of hell? How shall you? See, it says, it's so easy to get into the kingdom of heaven because unless you're like the Pharisees, unless you're like the Sadducees, or you're like these religious leaders, you're going to get to heaven. And it's not hard to get to heaven. And if you don't believe in heaven, that's fine. You might believe in Valhalla. You might believe in nothing at all. But like I was saying this morning to a couple of people, it gives me a lot of peace and comfort to believe in an everlasting life. And if by chance I'm wrong and there's nothing after this life, then what does it matter? It's not like I'm going to be disappointed. Either way, I'm not going to be disappointed. So it's a win-win situation. And if you don't believe in some sort of afterlife, then you really ain't going to have no peace of mind or comfort in the days as you get older, because that's what it's about. As you get older and get closer to dying, you're going to fear death a little bit at a time. You know it's going to come. You can't lie to yourself. You're laying there at night in bed and you know that you could die at any moment because you're getting older and older and older, and it's the inevitability that you're going to die. But if you believe in heaven or an afterlife of some sort, it gives you peace of mind, it gives you comfort in your soul. I'm just going to say this one more time. He says, woe to you, Pharisees and religious leaders, y'all are hypocrites. You build monuments. You build monuments to the prophets killed by your fathers, and you lay flowers on the graves of the godly men they destroyed. And then you say, we certainly would never acted as our fathers did, but you are. And Jesus says, in saying that, you are accusing yourselves of being the sons of wicked men. And you're following in their steps, filling up the full measure of their evil. You're snakes, you're sons of vipers. How can you escape the judgment of hell, he says. Jesus goes on to say, I will send you prophets, and I will send you wise men, inspired writers, But the thing is, you will kill some by crucifixion. You will kill some by ripping open the backs of others, and you will with whips in the synagogues, and you will hound them from city to city, so that you will become guilty of all the blood of murdered godly men, from righteous Abel to Zechariah, the son of Berechiah, slain by you, Jewish leaders, religious leaders, in the temple between the altar and the sanctuary. And we talking about that? Swearing by the altar, swearing by the sanctuary. Slain by you in the temple between the altar. You see what he's saying there. I will send you prophets and wise men, inspired writers. But yet you, Jewish leaders, religious leaders, will kill some by crucifixion, rip open the backs of others with whips in the synagogues, and hound them from city to city, so that you, the Jewish leaders, the religious leaders, will become guilty of all the blood of murdered godly men, from righteous Abel to Zechariah, slain by you, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, in the temple between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, all the accumulated judgment of the centuries shall break upon the heads of this very generation. The generation that was around when Jesus was alive, doing his ministry. The accumulated judgment of all centuries will break upon the heads of that generation. Ooh, man. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones all those God sends to her. How often I have wanted to gather your children together, Israel, Jacob, children, nations. How often I have wanted to gather your children together as hen gathers her chicks beneath her wings, but you would not let me. And now your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you this, you will never see me again until you are ready to welcome the one sent to you from God. And that is being taught to the Jewish religious leaders, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Herodians, the scribes. He is speaking to them. He says, you will never see me again until you are ready to welcome the one sent to you from God. That is a very powerful chapter. That is chapter 23, Matthew chapter 23. Very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And you can tell that it would appear that from the tone that Jesus is irritated or frustrated with this group of people. He's speaking the truth. He is speaking the truth and leading the way to eternal, everlasting life with what he is speaking in this chapter. But though Yeshua is speaking boldly, courageously, honestly, lovingly to a crowd or a multitude of people. So let's take that. Bold, courageous, honest, but lovingly. That's how we need to approach when we're talking to people. We have to be bold sometimes. We have to be courageous to be able to speak out and be able to speak what the truth is. And people are going to say, well, that's your truth, that's your opinion. And it very well could be. You could be wrong. You could be stating your own opinion. So you need to have discernment in what you're speaking about. And again, as a reminder, don't allow anyone to call you or us master, rabbi, pastor, bishop, whatever it is, because we are all servants. We're all servants. And to be a servant or to serve is to be the greatest. The more lowly our service to others, the greater we become. Because those who think that they're great and above others are going to be greatly disappointed and humbled. And those who humble themselves will be raised up and exalted, right? So, yeah, Yeshua in chapter 23 he's protesting in a sense against the religious leaders and the Pharisees. And the Sadducees are not mentioned, but we can assume with reasonable doubt or reasonable assumption that can be given along with the Herodians. Let's see if I have anything else here. That's it. Those who think that they are great will be greatly disappointed, for they are not. Selfish, self-serving people are the least among all. So if you want to be great among others, then you need to humble yourselves. You need to serve others, because it's what is the right thing to do, because we're all equal. We're all as brothers and sisters. With that, thank you for watching. If you watched this all the way through, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. I'm going to be talking into Matthew chapter 24, which it just gets more powerful as the end of this book of Matthew comes to the end, to the precipice of his crucifixion and resurrection. So we're getting really, really deep, really powerful. Love y'all. I appreciate you tuning in. God bless you all. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Peace out.